TNKR Media.
Welcome to Today's Entrepreneur, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business, presented by FL Montreal. My name is Dan Delmar, along with Ernie Furt today, who's in for Michael Newton. Welcome back, Ernie.
Thank you. Always fun to be here.
And we have today on the program an entrepreneur who I spotted in the news several years ago, and I'm really excited to talk to Pierre Néron. He's the president and founder of Station Lave-Glace. So Lave-Glace being windshield washer fluid. So what's so interesting about windshield washer fluid? Well, Pierre has devised this system where you can sort of pump bulk loads of it into your car just like you would at a gas pump. And it's brilliant, and it cuts down on all that plastic waste and makes the whole process a lot more convenient. So I love businesses that solve a problem. Ernie, in this case, a problem that most of us probably never even thought of.
Absolutely. You know, I seen many gas stations which have this like broomstick filled with all these empty canisters. And I always wondered what they did with them.
Yeah, well, I guess they end up in a landfill somewhere. And so it's great to have an entrepreneur tackling that problem and making the whole process more convenient. So Pierre will join us in a few minutes. But first, as usual, news and notes. And this piece in Les Affaires actually caught our attention. It's on the client experience. And we've spoken a lot about retail and how retailers have to adapt. This piece in Les Affaires says the client experience is the base of the experience. It remains that and will always be the base of the client experience. So just a little bit of that human connection and making someone's shopping experience more pleasant. What kinds of conversations have you guys had with your clients on that process?
Well, at the end of the day, in our business, as in most businesses, customer service is always king. You know, we have to serve the client in the way that the client wants to. You know, that you talk to them, you engage them in what's interesting to them, and develop a relationship with them, because the little things matter to the clients and they really want to know what's going on. And, you know, it's not like you have to develop a business relationship. You have to develop some type of relationship so it'll actually communicate with you, because communication in anything is very, very important, especially in business.
We're talking about some interesting developments in retail, including the addition of AR, augmented reality, and other new technologies. There's all kinds of links to personalization of the business, and certainly data. That's a big one. Are you seeing a lot of your clients sort of becoming tech companies lately?
It's not. A lot of our clients are adopting more tech than they had in the past. There's certain companies that have always been tech companies, and there's other companies who are hard asset companies, and they're not, and their development is slower. But the pandemic has forced everybody into operating in a virtual environment, and people learn, especially in the service businesses. You know, they have to have their people at home. Okay, fine. Can we work from home? We need some equipment. Great. Let's get the equipment. Let's work from home and let's do what we got to do in order to keep our business afloat and to keep our business successful.
This piece from Inc.com, super interesting. And we've been talking about the 9-to-5 workday and how sort of that's been deconstructed a little bit with the pandemic. So perhaps working longer days, slower, a little differently. So a Harvard Business School professor floated the idea of the 3-2-2 work week, not 9-to-5, but 3-2-2. So that's 3 days on site, 2 days remote, and 2 days off. What are your thoughts on the 3-2-2?
Well, 3-2-2. First of all, Dolly Parton's going to have to change her song. Okay, instead of 9-to-5, it's going to be 3-2-2. I don't know how she's going to do that, but that's going to be very interesting. That's kind of what I'm doing now. I'm basically working 3 remote days, 2 days in the office, and try to take 2 days off. But that's not really happening during tax season, unfortunately.
Do you think people are more productive or less productive if they're working at home?
If they're working exclusively at home and they don't have as much interaction as normal, bit by bit they begin to disengage. Okay, and so people need a combination of everything. So if you have this kind of is a little bit on the ideal sense, it's great. You know, you work 3 days from home, work 2 days at the office, or vice versa, whichever way you want it, and whichever days you need to. And that gives people a blend and a mix of contact with people. Certain days that they're on their own, that they can work and work in their pajamas effectively and do what they need to do. And other days where they have to get up, shave, put on a suit, and go to the office.
This piece from Fast Company also caught our attention. 6 trends that will reshape business in 2021, but more from a meaningful angle, like more in terms of purpose and mission statements. Where your company is going in a broader sense. They talk about authentic purpose measured in action, transparency, and accountability. Story doing, not just storytelling. Stakeholder capitalism. They also talk about looping in your board into that creative process to sort of outline your vision, and selling your employees as well. So really getting everyone on board across the chain to sort of tell your narrative and also outline the steps how your entire organization can come out of this pandemic in good shape.
Basically, just don't say it, do it. That's what has to be at the end of the day. People have had these wonderful mission statements for years and years and years, and you go look and see what they're actually doing. They're not doing anything close to that mission statement. Now, people are kind of being forced by society to be more transparent and more accountable in what they're doing. And people focus on actions and not words, because the words are useless. And you have to empower your employees because they're the engine of the change. They have to help you to achieve your goals. And if it's not going to come from the top of the board of directors, then if they don't believe it, then why should the people believe it?
You're a leader at your company. What advice do you give to younger employers who might be struggling, either with their workload, with their mental health, with the government messing up things?
I can't control the government.
No, we can't.
But we can't control the employees. But at the end of the day, as long as they're talking to someone, they can be talking to us, they can be talking to friends. Just do different things. If you need to get up and get away from your home office, go for a bike ride, go for a run, do whatever you like to do that helps you. Garden, whatever it is. Right now, it's becoming nice outside. You can walk your dog, you can do whatever you have to do, bike ride. Talk to your team members, talk to your friends, talk to your family. It's all about communication. Everything today is about communication.
Let's move on. This speaking of sort of helping your team succeed in these times, this is a 5-step formula that Google uses, and it has some key words here that I think entrepreneurs might want to take note of. So this is from Inc.com, the 5-step formula for team success. So in the end, they shared these 5 traits. So if you have these 5 traits, according to Google, you'll have a safe and productive work environment. So the 1 is psychological safety, 2, dependability, 3, structure and clarity, 4, meaning, and 5, impact. Any thoughts on those?
You always need to have some type of formula, but there has to always be clear roles and norms to follow. So it cannot be everything in a vacuum. Okay, let's go and let's do what we have to do. Today's work has to be meaningful. It has to be important to the team members who are doing it, important for the organization, important for the team, important for the world. People have to feel safe taking risks or suggesting things that are a little off base or quote unquote out of the box. Everything today has to be out of a box. Today, we have to make a new box. It has to be not in the box. It has to be out of the box. There's going to be a new box. There's going to be a new circle, whatever it is. Business has to adapt, and they're doing it. And because of the pandemic, we're being forced to do it that much faster.
Psychological safety is, of course, a pretty big one. We were talking about mental health on the program a couple weeks ago. Dependability, I would say, both ways as well. Let's not forget that some employers can lack dependability and may be giving unclear instructions.
You have to lead by example.
Yeah,
that comes down to it at the end of the day. Communicate, lead by example.
Structure. And the 4th I want to highlight is also important and underrated, which is meaning. And making your team, as we said, part of a bigger project.
And that's why a lot of organizations, do work for Habitat for the Homeless and other charitable organizations and things like that. Allow your employees to do these things on their own time and make it part of your corporate culture.
So again, another example, Ernie, of an entrepreneur who's really solving a problem that in some cases we didn't even know we had. So we're talking a lot more about environmentalism, and certainly as we get out of the pandemic situation, hopefully we'll be talking a bit more about climate change, and businesses have to take this into consideration. Do you see people now incorporating climate change and environmental friendliness as really core parts of their business model?
People are changing. Yes, they're looking at these environmental things. It's important to their customers. The customers are asking them questions on it, and they better have answers. Because if they don't have answers and they're not environmentally conscious, then they're going to have issues, expanding their business into the new horizons.
And very excited to chat with our entrepreneur today. He is someone who popped into the news because he had just a really great idea, and it's kind of like a objectively great idea, and it certainly cuts down a lot of the plastic waste that we see all around Quebec. Pierre Néron is the president and founder of Station Lave-Glace. Welcome, Pierre.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
Good.
So first question, the easiest. Tell us about your brilliant idea, Station Lave-Glace.
Well, the idea is very, very simple. Is that you can exactly like you're doing with fuel pump. Is that you can drive to the device and prepay, pre-authorize an amount with your credit card, and just fill up your car as much as you want up to the pre-authorized amount directly. And you can also refill bottles if you want, but basically we can eliminate at the source the plastic bottles that we're using for the windshield washer fluid by pumping it directly in your car, and you pay like the fuel pump per milliliter the fluid you're putting into your car.
Where did this idea come from?
It's to make a long story short, basically it's an idea that was actually first, it comes from Europe. Basically, I have a sister that lives in Sweden, and in my first visit to her about 25 years plus ago, there was something in a gas station, and she thought that it was exactly it, like a pump for the washer fluid directly in your car, but it was not the case. But that gave me the idea. And at the crossroad of my career, basically, I'll say 20 years later, I've always wanted to own a business, to be an entrepreneur. I had been working since my first days into big corporation, and I had been looking for small businesses to buy. It's not an easy thing to do, to buy a small business, and that idea came back to me. And I thought that the business timing was good and that was back in 2012. I remember it was December 2012. And even more today, the environment is actually extremely sexy. And at the time, I could not believe the idea was not invented. And but sure enough, nothing was existing in such a way where you can drive your car directly to the fuel, like you're doing with your car for the fuel. So I started to look into it, and basically realized that no one had done such a thing, because the device needs to be certified by Measurement Canada. Because if you're buying liquid per milliliter, like the fuel pump, you need to be certified Measurement Canada, and no one had ever done such a thing because it's too difficult to go through those approvals. And that's the same thing, like if you go to the butcher and you want ham, a slice of hams, the weights that the butcher puts on it, it's actually certified Measurement Canada. So it's a very difficult process, and I thought it was if I would be able to do it, then I'll be the first one to do it. Then it creates sort of a barrier at the entry, not to be copied. It creates some difficulties for other ones to copy me. And but sure enough, it took 2.5 years to do, and we have a patent, a Canadian patent on the device, and a U.S. patent as well. So this is how the idea came up, and we thought the timing for it was good. We thought that even though the entire fleet of cars in Quebec or Canada would be electric, we would still need washer fluid. So it was not soon that we would get rid of those plastic bottles. And if you count the amount of cars we have in Quebec, I mean, I think it's 5.4 million cars that we have in Quebec. So multiply by that amount by 4 bottles a year. So let's count 2 in the winter, 1 in the summer, and 1 for the fall and spring. That's 4 bottles. I mean, you're up to 20 million bottles more. So we need to get rid of it. And it's year after year. And some years is bigger because of the weather. It's totally depending on the weather. And it's a necessity product. So that's how I took my decision to dive into this project and get it done.
You always had an entrepreneurial spirit, it seems. You always wanted to do something, and it just took you a while to decide to do this. The idea had to germinate in your head, and then you decided to and you decided to do it. Which it's a great thing, because you're going to people will save a lot of this waste that just goes into landfills, like we said earlier. And there's different options. You have different options. You have the filling station. I think there's 4 of them. I looked on your website. You want to explain that a little bit?
Well, on the website, we have 4 devices. One is actually for the public, actually the general public. I mean, the entire fleet of cars that we have. And we have declined the first model with the entire electronic, the payment system and everything. And we took that away. And actually, we can attach the device to a fleet management system for fuel, because we have company that has big fleets of trucks and cars, like the city, like the big trucking companies. And basically, sometimes they will have their own fuel management system. And then we can attach the device to the fuel management system, where the employee will go there with his card, will tap the card on the management system, and he would select the washer fluid pump, and then he can actually authorize the pump, and we can count the liquid or not count the liquid, so get the pump authorized. And we have something very rudimental for those who has a small fleet of cars, like an electrician, a plumber, who has maybe 20 trucks, but go through maybe 5-6 pallets of plastic bottles a year. So you're talking about maybe 1,000 bottles a year. So those can get just a simple reservoir with a pump on it, and we can refill it. And we actually had developed a little device that allows us to trigger a little signal. So when the reservoir is on the low level, then we get an email, and then actually we can go and refill.
You have a fleet of trucks for that?
Not myself. We don't have a fleet of truck, basically. But for the fleets, for the ones who has those fleets, for those companies, it's a good thing to have, because then they don't run out of fluid when it's critical time.
And Pierre, it is many, many times a year. I mean, you said a couple times during winter, but I feel like it's more like 3 or 4 in my case, especially for those of us who go up north on a regular basis. Have you had a lot of success in the regions where people sort of are really binging on Lave-Glace, it seems?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's we try to be conservative, so we believe it's probably more than 25 millions. We don't have the exact numbers, so we go by the logic, but yeah, we believe that. And like this winter that we just had was not an exact a good benchmark for using a lot of, first of all, people were working from home. So, and it was not a winter where there was an extreme usage of it, of the windshield washer. But yeah, in the regions, of course, I mean, these are the places that works the most is actually Stoneham, a little bit up north Quebec City, where basically there's a ski resort, and it's among the last gas station where, before you hit L'Étape, before Chicoutimi. So that place actually is, we had to add a second one because we had to go there and refuel 2-3 times a week. So it was just too much. So, but that one, if all of we have 70 devices so far, and they're spread across Quebec. Basically, we have one in Amos, all the way up north in Abitibi. We have one in Val d'Or, in Rouen. We have 3 in Rouen. And basically, and we have in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, we have 7 there. So they all working pretty well in regions. So yeah, it's but we go through a lot of those plastic bottles, that's for sure.
So you have 70 of these. I hear only Quebec. Are we planning on expanding to Ontario or West?
Well, I'm happy you asked the question, because we're actually going through now the process of putting something together. There's 2 distributors that actually we're going to start sending those devices in Ontario. And basically, we're ready to go across Canada with this for sure. But yeah, so the first one will be shipped by end of May to go around and show like a showcase. And we should start seeing the first one in operation probably by September. So yeah, we're going to Ontario for sure.
Tell us about the marketing process. I mentioned earlier that I found out about you guys a few years ago through the news media because people were reporting on it. It was a new idea. How do you teach people about this new idea and sort of demystify a little bit? Because maybe people are thinking, well, it's another pump. Maybe it's too complicated, too time consuming. Describe the education process that you're involved in.
Well, when I first put the idea together, is that I did not want to reinvent the wheel that was already existing with the fuel pumps. So my mentality was a monkey has to be able to use it. So we made it very simple, and that's why it's Station Lave-Glace. It's self-explanatory. It's a pre-authorization amount, like you do with the pumps. It's very simple to use. So basically, we went through the social media because that's the fastest way to reach people. So basically, we're a B2B to C. So we're business to business, but basically the consumer basically is who we're targeting to use it. And the social media, the Facebook has been the benchmark for spreading out the news, and of course it's very sensitive to people, which is the one-time usage of those plastic bottles. It's very sensitive to the media. So this is how we got the coverage we were lucky to have. And of course, it's the first time this thing did not existed in that nature. And it's a system that is actually it's strong enough to be spread across the province to eliminate those plastic bottles. It's not something that it can be used only in a local gas station, privately owned. It's really made to be robust and going through the weather that we're having. And so it's really a concept that is durable in time.
With respect to the bigger cities, I hear a lot of smaller cities and surrounding areas. Is there an issue with the bigger cities and their adoption of this thing? Are they not environmentally friendly or conscious?
It's not a simple concept to implement. It's not as easy as we may think. I mean, at first we thought that the gas station was the primary place to get the product known. And the petroleum company, of course, they make good money with the bottle. And it's something that has been implemented. It's there. And they're so busy. I mean, it's when you go to them with a new idea that it's get their day-to-day a little bit more complex, it's kind of tough to get in. If we were giving away the device to them, of course, we would have that concept all over the place. But money-wise, it would be extremely demanding a lot of capital. So basically, the concept is that we sell the device and we manage it for them. So it's a business managed concept. And but we were lucky enough to have some mayor being avant-gardist or looking into the future, and actually few cities actually purchased it, and they lowered the price where the city makes just a little bit of money on it. And they give that away to organization in their cities, and actually it works better sometimes than in the gas station. So really, slowly but certainly, we're aiming for the cities, and we have just put together a program where we call it Voyons donc. That means that once we install a device in a city where there's enough citizens, then we install the device for free. And then we give 10 cents per liter to the city, which they can give it back to any organization they want. So the two city we've installed it to, I mean, it's the device is installed behind the city hall. It's not a super place. I never thought it'd be working that much. Unbelievable. I was surprised. So basically, we're going to start rolling out that plan fairly soon.
And parking lots, I think you have one at Complexe Desjardins or something like that.
Yeah, the parking lots is Complexe Desjardins. It's underneath, so it's basically limited to those 1,000 parking spots that are there, and there's 2 exits. So it's really Desjardins actually called me off and they said, "Well, we'd like to offer this to our to the people that rent the parking space, and we'd like to put it there." And I said, "That's a good window for the business community." And for to get the product known. And sure enough, what we're going to be doing with Desjardins is that they have Desjardins headquarters in Lévis, Quebec, and they have about 6,000 employees there, and they have over 45,000 parking spots. And we will be installing one device there. And basically, the reason why they're doing it is because they want to attract the talent. And by attracting the talent, that at Desjardins in Lévis, basically what you can do is that you can change your tire in the parking lot. You can change the oil. You can get your car washed, and basically you can do your grocery store, your grocery, and they have put together a big cabinet with multiple doors, and it's ventilated and climate controlled. And basically, you can do your shopping with the grocery, and they're gonna bring it in your little cabinet reserved to you. And at the end of the day, you pick up your food. So they wanted to offer that service there for the employees. So it's one extra element to attract talent to work for Desjardins.
We'll have our one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur coming up in a little bit from Pierre Néron, president and founder of Station Lave-Glace. And first, though, let's talk about selling a business. Joining us again is Nick Moretas, tax partner at FL, and how that process hopefully will go smoothly for entrepreneurs and making big changes this year. Nick, welcome back.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. How are you?
All right. Selling your business. What we've noticed at Fuller for the last year, I would say, actually it's longer, 2 years probably, and probably due to the very low interest rates that are out there for financing, is an increased interest in people buying other companies. And we've been a bit inundated in terms of prospects that have considered buying and have actually closed transactions. And what we were finding in all this is that the process, when you try to think about it, I want to sell my business, what's involved and what's going to happen in that very tight few months or weeks before that sale. And that's where we were coming up and discussing it internally, like how do we help? What we tend to find is many times we plan it. I'm a planner. Ernie works on this stuff as well, where one day there's going to be an exit. How do we structure? But what we're finding is depending upon where the buyers are they local? Are they coming in from the States? Are you still in the growing stage? There's a lot of elements that come in. So usually one of the first things that happens is this letter of intent that the buyer is going to sign and is going to present to the seller that basically outlines the broad plan. I'm looking to buy and acquire everything or part of it. I'm looking to acquire for a price based upon this formula or some manner, how much I'm willing to pay down, how much I'm not. What am I expecting to buy? What are you going to leave in your company as assets that I'm going to acquire? What are some broad principles that we want to discuss in terms of your continued involvement as a seller? And that's sometimes the easy thing. Then you're into this due diligence period where all of a sudden the buyer's basically looking under the hood and asking lots of questions. And it could be as simple as, is your minute books, if you're a corporation, up to date with the proper directors and shareholders? Have they been left to languish, as sometimes is found? How good are your financial statements and your book of accounts? Your tax policies, your tax filings, how are they gone? and then screening all your employees and saying where's the strengths, where there's the weaknesses.
Sounds very complicated, Nick. Where are these buyers coming from?
Well, right now we've been seeing them all over the place, and sometimes it is a market driven. We want to get into the Canadian market or the Quebec market. Sometimes it's expanding and adding complementary services so that it's a full body service. I've been looking. I thought prices were going to come down because of COVID and all this. Nope, I haven't seen that at all, which was my biggest part. Very surprising. And then
are they buying shares? Are they buying shares or assets?
We've gone across everything. A lot of the transactions are shares because the sellers would want to sell shares. Buyers prefer to buy an asset, and there's always a give and take what you want to do, and that'll come into the price. It'll come into the terms.
They call that the BAS rule: the buy assets, sell shares.
That's right.
Always the case.
That's right. So that's what we do, and then the financing seems to be there. We're doing transactions right now where we got cash and security deals. So I'm giving you so much cash and I'm giving you shares of my company. Well, that's very nice, but where's your company? If it's in the States, I have to pay the tax today on those shares you're giving me. Is there something we can do to defer?
Does management hang on afterwards sometimes?
Well, so far we have. I don't see long term. There are quite a few. The reason I'm selling out depends on what your age is, what's your motivation. Did you put the pancarte out in your front lawn saying I'm up for sale, or did someone come in and knock on your door and want to buy you out? Big difference in terms of your motivation. We were talking with clients recently. They're willing to stick around, but it's nice for them to take out their equity, reduce the risk. We got others who went in deliberately. We don't want to be we don't want to own this company by December 31st, and therefore we're going to be selling it. But then our time horizon isn't 3 years down the road, where perhaps the buyer would like us to be. It might be 6 months, a year down the road. So there's a lot of factors that come in, and you're doing all this, and you're thinking through all this. And this is where I think business owners have to be multitasking, because you're multitasking with the accountant who needs to help you with your finances, to the tax guy who's trying to restructure your stuff, and many times doing it before the deal is really settled up. The lawyers are trying to determine, should we go left or right, and what do we agree with this, what do we agree with that, and then that almighty dollar, and how much are you going to get today, how much are you going to get in the future. So businesses, you're looking to structure. You should be talking to your advisors, even though the possibility of an exit is years from now, is build up and to understand what's going and what's being involved. And the planning is the biggest part of that.
You didn't even mention lawyers in any of these deals. There's no lawyers involved at all.
No,
right?
no, I mentioned lawyers. No, lawyers are vital to these deals. And with Zoom calls with people all around North America, electronic documents, where in the past this would have been an impossibility.
Yeah, electronic documents are the thing of the future and thing of today, actually. People are signing these things all over the world, all at the same time, and the deals get done quickly that way.
Nick Moredas, tax partner at FL, thank you so much. And Ernie, let's now turn to our guest, Pierre Néron, president and founder of Station Lave-Glace. Pierre, what is your one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur?
So yeah, the one piece of advice I got to tell you, but there's so many pieces of advice I'd like to say, but if there's one, is that what I've realized that it's to be an entrepreneur is accessible to everybody, but it's not made for everybody. So basically, the advice is profile yourself and ask a lot of questions. What does it involve to be an entrepreneur? On all aspects of being an entrepreneur, and jump in it. If you still feel that you've got the guts to do it, just do it. It's an amazing journey.
Pierre Néron, president and founder of Station Lave-Glace. Thanks so much for joining us today, and congratulations on a product that just plain makes sense. I mean, there's nothing else needs to be said. It just makes sense.
That's great. Thank you very much for your time.
Ernie, nice to chat with you again today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And don't forget to head over to today'sentrepreneur.org for well over a decade worth of inspiring entrepreneur stories. You can listen to us on demand at iHeartRadio, subscribe on iTunes, or wherever you find your podcasts. And we'll see you back here in a couple of weeks. Take care.
This has been a production KR Media. Good talk.